somebody straight out. I have only black. I have got to do this a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got them last year.
That's fun.
Yeah.
I
Maybe wrap a little for you. Didn't do that back fun. Yeah. So how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Doing well, yes. Continuing to work on my upper grammar.
That's when we're never still there, but I'm gonna give it a shot anyway. I worked on that with third graders and I thought, just give up. It's not worth it.
It is so much.
Ended up, I think, with the sinus infection, so I took it. It's not the worst part of it that it would be,
So, just be careful if something hurts you.
well,
That's why there's 11.
I don't even go outside.
You don't even, that's too bad because it's really pretty out there right now.
Beautiful.
All right, we're going to start. So,
Doesn't work.
yeah, let's sit comfortably and we're going to get started. So, go ahead and if you want to sit up on a chair, do. If you want to sit on the floor, do. Just be mindful of getting comfortable for your own hips. So if you feel like you want to sit on a blanket on the floor, do too. So take your time. And if you don't have a blanket and you think you're going to need one, remember they're all around here. You can grab one, even in class, if you feel like you decide you want one. And then just close your eyes, lengthen up through the top of your head, feel your shoulders soften down away from your ears. And let yourself just be aware of feeling your breath, and maybe even as you breathe in and out, see how you feel. Like, are there any parts of the body that you feel particularly tense, or place you need to bring your breath to try to release a little bit, let tension go a little bit. And feel the breath coming in and going out through your nose, and imagine that it's coming in equally through both sides of your nose and going out equally through both sides of your nose. If you're comfortable to let your breath come into those three-part breaths where you inhale into your belly, then to the ribs, then up a little bit into your chest. And when you exhale, the breath comes out of the chest first, then the ribs, then the belly. You can come into those three-part breaths, but don't force your breath. So it feels like you're trying too hard. See if you can just let go and then just watch your breath again. And on your next exhale, release your arms on out beside you here now. So if you're on the floor, you can lightly touch the ground with your fingertips. And we'll inhale both arms all the way out and up overhead. And on our exhale, let our hands come right down together in front of our hearts. And then we're going to reverse and inhale the hands right up through the midline. And on the exhale, open our arms on back out and down. And from here, taking a nice inhale. And on the exhale, let's twist to our right. So bring yourself around. And if your left hand can come all the way to your right knee, fine. If not, just come to the midline of the body or however far feels good. And feel your feet in the floor, whatever part of your feet are touching, whether it's the bottoms of your feet, the outside edges of your feet, or your heels. So feel that engagement up into your hips when you press gently down into your feet. One more inhale. And as we exhale, we're going to come on back around through center and keep on going. Let yourself just come all the way around to the other side again, as far as feels good for you. Again, feel the feet pressing down. Engage the belly a little bit. Feel that action up into your hips. One more inhale. And on your exhale, come on back around into center again. And let's inhale our hands forward of our shoulders and flex our hands here for a second. And then let one set of fingertips, it doesn't matter which one, go down and the other one's face up. And all you're going to do every time you inhale or exhale is switch so that you pedal your hands a little bit. So let it go with your breath though. Every time you inhale, every time you exhale, you're going to switch. The next time you exhale, let yourself finish off. Flex both your hands now, and then open your arms on out beside you so that you let your elbows bend a little bit, and then press out into straighter arms if you can, feeling the undersides of the arms. And then let both sets of fingertips face down so you come more into the tops of your arms. And then making loose fists, let your hands circle around in one direction. So keep going in that same direction with those loose fists. And then we'll stop in reverse direction, coming the other way. And then let your arms release on down. You're probably feeling them a bit now. Shake them out just a little bit. And now remember which leg you have in front, but let's stretch our legs out. So if you're cross-legged, just remember which leg you had in front. And let's do a little bit of that same thing, pedaling with our feet. One foot flexed, the other one pointed, and then letting yourself switch so that you go back and forth. And try to go with your breath. If you do want to go a little faster than your breath, that's okay too. Just let yourself find your ankles, your feet, the backs of your legs. Also feeling the quads engage when you're pointing. And then finish off where both feet are flexed there. And then we'll go ahead and bring our feet back down. Or if you were cross-legged, switch the cross of your legs so you bring your other leg in front. And let's move a little bit here, letting our exhales bring us a little bit forward. So now keeping your torso long, letting your inhales bring you forward, and your exhales bring you forward, and your inhales bring you back up to sitting. So just enjoying that little movement with your breath. You can go as far forward as you want. Maybe it needs to be a couple of inches. Maybe you like to go farther forward. Feel that nice sense of stretching your back without discomfort. And allowing yourself just to coordinate your movement with your breaths. And then the next time that you come forward, take your time. You can stay forward by putting your elbows above your knees if you're in your chair. You can, if you want, widen your feet and go farther. If it feels fine to you to bring your hands down farther, you can. And this is totally up to you and how your low back feels. Elbows can be above the knees. If you're on the floor, you can walk your hands farther out if you feel good to do that. Or you can stay up higher, keeping your back long. And if you can, let your head hang, by all means do. In other words, if that bothers your back, don't do it. You can keep your head more in line with your spine, but if you can let your head hang, do. Good. One more breath here. And we're going to slowly let ourselves come on back up from that forward bend there. Bring our arms on out beside us, and we'll inhale both arms all the way out and up overhead. And on our exhale, let our hands come down together in front of our hearts. And we'll unfold our arms from here, kind of shake everything out a little bit. We're going to come around towards hands and knees. So if you do not want to be on your knees, don't be on your knees. You're more than welcome to let yourself come down to a blanket on the floor so you're not on the harshness of the ground, or to let yourself come with hands down to a chair if you prefer. And be really mindful of your wrists. If you have any kind of issues that it feels better to come on a fist or hold the edge of the seat of your chair, do that. Right? So that if you need to erase that wrist crease because it really bothers you, really be mindful, take your time. And then look down there between your hands. Let your spine kind of neutralize itself, right? So you're engaging your belly a little bit, but you're letting your tailbone do what it naturally wants to do, which is reach back, maybe even up a little bit. You have all those natural curves in your back. And on your next exhale, go ahead and draw up into cat pose, navel drawing towards the spine, tailbone releasing down. And on your next inhale, send your tailbone back and up a little bit. Now your belly's going to sink a little more, your ribs, your chest. Whether you want to look forward or not in your cow is totally up to you. Depends on your neck. So when you exhale, navel draws towards the spine. You round up into that cat pose. And when you inhale, you send your tailbone back and up and ease your way back through into your cow. So go with your own breath, the tempo of your own breath, right? If you feel like staying cat or cow and breathing a couple of times without moving, that's fine. If one of those poses just makes you feel this great sense of relief, stay there for a couple of breaths. Just enjoy that natural movement through the spine. Finish off the one you're on or that you're moving into. And we'll come back to that neutral spine we found originally, looking down between our hands here now. And we're going to step our left foot forward and our right foot back and find a lunge here. So whether your hands are up on a chair or on blocks, or maybe you want to go down lower to the floor, just take your time. Remember that you want to let yourself get very aligned with your front knee. Make sure it's not going out beyond your ankle. And then you want your feet a little apart, like you're on very narrow railroad tracks, so that you get the most of your pose here, getting into the back of the right leg. Engage the belly a little bit so you feel like that support there of just engaging that low belly. And then we'll switch our legs out. So however you want to come to the other side. Again, just being aware of that alignment of that front knee. And then letting that left heel reach directly behind your foot. So you don't want to be like you're on a tightrope. You do want to be like you're on the sides of a narrow railroad track, right? So your feet are really basically hips distance apart. And then we're going to switch again. Coming back again to that right leg stepping back. Again, getting your feet to where you feel pretty good. Some of you I know like to bring your left hand or forearm up to your thigh. So if you want to lift up a little bit and let yourself come a little more into your legs, into your hips, you don't need to. You can keep both hands down. Good. We're going to switch again. So again, how long you take this stance now is up to you. Just that alignment of that front knee is important. And whether you decide to lift your front right hand up to that thigh there or your forearm up if you're a little longer stance, depends on you. You don't need to, but you can. Good. And then we'll come on back down with the hands if they're up. We're going to step forward into standing forward bend. Feet hips distance apart and parallel. So try to let yourself get your toes facing forward and see if you can just, and you can have support under your hands. See if you can shift back a little bit towards your heels and then forward a little bit towards the balls of your feet. And it's not big, just your hips are kind of coming forward and back a little bit. And then bend both your knees equally and let yourself feel like you're right there now so that when you decide to come forward, however you decide to come forward, right? Keeping a long back with support underneath you. You can always put a block in your chair and be up higher and out of your hands if you'd like. Or you can put your elbows above your knees too. That lengthens the back out. Let's see if if you can feel that sense of just the weight of the torso coming forward, helping the backs of the legs to open up, whether your knees are bent or straighter, right? Enjoy feeling that breath coming in and going out through your nose. So watch your breath again. Let it come a little deeper in and out if you can, so that you feel the breath coming in to expand the ribs in all directions. Let your face go, let your jaw go. One more breath. And then we're going to bring our hands up to our hips. Bend your knees, press into your feet equally as you rise up to standing. And we'll inhale our arms all the way out and up. And on our exhale, let our hands come down together in front of our hearts. So go ahead and make sure your feet are just where you like them for mountain pose. If you need to kind of walk in place a little bit, do, or shift around a little bit, do. Just kind of make sure you have your feet fairly even. And then bring your gaze on forward and out. And if you like to close your eyes, that's fine. If you know you get a little bit dizzy, better to keep your eyes open. Imagine you're looking straight out towards the horizon. And then just enjoy. Feel your feet strongly based, right? Imagine actually bend your knees a little bit and press your feet down like you're pushing the floor away from you with your feet equally. And then imagine that you're drawing your thighs upward a little bit, which usually lets your legs come a little straighter. You don't really want to lock your knees though. And then feel your hips coming over your ankles, your shoulders over your hips. Feel your head really very light up there on top so that you don't really feel the weight of your head. Sometimes if you send your chin forward and round into that upper back, you do feel the weight of your head a lot. But if you lift up through the top of the head, like you have a string attached, pulling you upward, then your head feels a lot lighter. Chin parallel to the floor. We're going to unfold our arms on down beside us and inhale both arms all the way out and up. And on the exhale, bend your knees as you come on forward into that standing forward bend again. Let your next inhale help you find a nice flat back. Now you can have your hands on your legs, your thighs, your shins, or on your blocks or your chair. And we're going to step the right foot back and come into lunge. So let your shoulders draw down away from your ears. See if you can enjoy pressing your feet a little away from each other like you're trying to make your mat longer with your feet. At the same time, engage your low belly a little bit. Good. Then we're going to come into downward facing dog pose. So your down dog is up to you where you have your hands. On a chair, on the blocks, doesn't matter, on the floor. Elbows still are going to hug in towards each other. Now if you're on the high height of the blocks, be careful, they can be tippy. You don't have to have a lot of weight on your hands. Like in your chair or on the blocks, you can be so reached back, there's not that much weight into your hands. Now we will come on forward like we're going to come into a push-up pose, a plank. So now this is up to you how far you go with this. So if you have some issues in your shoulders or your wrists, adjust accordingly. You can put your knees down, do a half plank. You can, if you want, go to a forearm plank, go down onto your forearms to get out of your hands. If some of you like to bend your elbows a little bit or do a full push-up, more power to you, right? Let yourself, if you want to come a little more into your arms and your shoulders, do. And then we'll make our way back into downward facing dog pose. Reaching equally back through your sitting bones. Feel free to bend your knees as much as you like in dog. And again, hug those elbows towards each other. Feel your shoulders. Feel that sense of really comfort in your shoulders in this pose. And then we'll bring our right foot forward to find lunge. And you can put your left knee down or both knees down if you need to on the floor to come forward with that right foot. And then we'll step back into standing forward bend. Feet hips distance apart and parallel. And again, be mindful. I know some of you are fine. You're fine to let yourself fold over your legs and hold your elbows. If that feels okay to you, just be very mindful how your back feels and how the backs of your legs feel. There is an openness for the backs of the legs, but you do not want to push it into a pulling, right? The weight of your head, let go through your jaw. And then we'll bend our knees, bring our hands to our hips, and come back up to standing. And inhale our arms all the way out and up. And on our exhale, let our hands come down as the crown of the head reaches up. We're going to inhale the hands right back up through the midline. On the exhale, open the arms like wings and bend your knees as you come forward. And let your next inhale help you find that nice flat back. So again, you're thinking about a tabletop back here. And this time, left foot comes back into lunge. So again, as you find that lunge, see about pressing your feet away from each other like you're trying to lengthen your mat. Feel how your belly really automatically engages, and your hips. And then we'll come on back into a downward facing dog pose. So again, your dog, up to you and your shoulders. Take your time, and if you're like, well, I think I'd rather have my hands a little lower or a little bit different, go ahead and try, or a little higher. And if you want to walk a little bit, bend a knee at a time in your dog. Let yourself bend one knee at a time. Enjoy releasing the backs of the legs. Good. And then come on back to your full dog. Let your next inhale bring you towards that plank. And again, you do not have to do a full plank. You can come to forearms. You can stay in your plank, thinking about your core strength there. Let yourself feel your sitting bones reaching down towards your heels. Good. And then we'll come on back again into downward facing dog pose. And from here, the left foot is going to come forward. So again, you can put your knees down. You can put your right knee down as you need to step that left foot forward. And then we'll come on back into standing forward bend with our feet hips distance apart and parallel. And be mindful, remember, if you think you want to come a little bit deeper into the forward bend, but you need support, use it. Elbows above your knees, hands above your knees. Let yourself be mindful. Feel the weight of your head if you can. Let your head release. And then we'll bring our hands to our hips. Press into our feet, rise up to standing, and inhale our arms all the way out and up. And on our exhale, let our hands come down together in front of our hearts. And now unfold your arms. Inhale your hands straight on out from your shoulders, a T position. Let your palms face down. There you go. And then bring your left arm on top of your right. Give yourself a hug. Let your elbows release down. And let your head move around a little bit. We're all different. It might feel good for you to tilt your head a little bit. It might feel good just to turn your head and kind of release what angle your head is at. You know what I mean? You can just turn it to one side and then lower your chin down. Or you can release your ear towards your shoulder. There are all kinds of little places you can find, right? And then come on back into center. And now release your hands. See if you can just start to send the backs of the hands towards each other. Stop when you're still like this, kind of far apart with your hands. Right? Just take a little breath there. And then if you want to keep going, you can keep going. Send the hands, backs of the hands towards each other. Or put your right fingers on your left palm. If you like that, twisting the thumbs to the midline. So the eagle wrap here. And then sit back like into a little chair pose. Not deep. Just feel your feet equal in the floor. Pretend you do have a chair behind you. And if you were going to sit in it, how would you do that, right? You would have to let your body come forward as you send your seat back, right? And coming into chair pose. Now keep your arms the same. Let yourself float back up to standing. We're going to release our arms straight out again from our shoulders. And more, you're going to feel your shoulders right now, I bet. Reach out through the fingertips. Feel as wide as you can. Imagine you're reaching your fingertips farther and farther away from you. But your shoulders, the tops of your shoulders are released. And now we're going to bring the right arm on top of the left and give that hug. And again, kind of let yourself move your head around. And also, just make sure right now you're not locking your knees. Doesn't mean you have to bend them necessarily, but you certainly don't want to jam into your backs of your legs. And you can move your head around however you want. So you can roll it around, just let it feel good. If you find a little spot back there between the shoulder blades and your spine, oh, sometimes you just want to stay. You want your head to do the work, but in a quite different way, right? And then come on back so that you bring your chin on back up and you're parallel to the floor with your chin. Release your shoulders. And again, just stop when you get just a little way. Stay there for a second. Feel your shoulders. Feel the space between the shoulder blades on your back. Now you don't have to keep going. You can if you want. You can stay right there. You can put your left hand on your right palm. And if you like that final little twist of the thumbs towards the midline, there's your eagle wrap, right? Not necessary to do that. You can be like this and be happy. From here, we're going to sit back again in towards that little chair pose. So imagine you do have a chair back there. So how would you get into it? You know, good thing to practice at home. Not necessarily with these arms, but sitting down into a firm chair and then getting back up without using your hands, right? Rise on back up. Let your arms stay here for a breath. And then unwrap those arms. Bring your arms on out beside you. Let's lower our right arm down, lift our left arm up, and come on over into a side stretch. See if you can let your palm face front. So you're facing the palm forward. And let your elbow be a little soft up there. Breathing into the left ribs. And then we'll come on up. We're just going to switch arms. And again, as you lift up through that right side of the body, let the palm just face forward. Let yourself just breathe into the right ribs. Good. And then we'll come on back up. Lower both arms on down. Interlace your fingers behind you. Clasp your hands. Let your elbows be soft. Take a nice inhale. And on the exhale, bend your knees and come forward. And stop when you're about parallel to the floor or higher. Don't go any lower. So look down towards the ground. Let your back of your head be in line with your spine. You've got a nice flat back here. Good. Hug your elbows upward a little bit towards the ceiling. Feel how your chest goes down towards the ground. Good. And then if any of you want to keep going forward, you can, if it's okay for you. You know, I sometimes like to put my head on my chair, frankly, and then you can release your arms up off your back if that feels any good to you. You can let yourself come into a little more of a shoulder release there. And then bring your hands on down. Let them release all the way on down. And on your next inhale, find that nice flat, long back again. And we're going to walk into a downward facing dog pose from here. So you put your hands, or whatever you like to use, forearms if you'd rather, into your dog. Let yourself reach back. And on your next inhale, come on out again towards a plank. Again, you do not have to do a full plank. That's totally up to you. And you can do push-ups if you like. You can let yourself come into a back bend. I know some of you like to come onto the floor and do a sphinx or a cobra or an up dog. Not necessary to do that back bend. And then we'll come on back again into downward facing dog pose. So take your time, walk a little bit, maybe even wag your tail. If that feels good to let your hips shift a little bit, even turn your head a little bit, like you're looking from side to side as your hips go. Let it feel kind of natural, you know? And then come on back into center, and on your next inhale, come on out towards that plank again. Again, it is totally optional here, what you do. So stay in your plank if you'd rather. Come down, go up to your forearms to do a sphinx pose if you'd rather, or a little cobra or an up dog. Not necessary to do that back bend. And then we'll come on back again into downward facing dog pose. Good. From here, let's bring our right foot forward. So you can put your left knee down or both knees down to come into your lunge with your right foot forward. And then we'll come back into standing forward bend again. And let this feel like the biggest relief you can. Right? So that's different for everybody. Using a chair under your arms or stacking blocks up so that you can, with your knees a little bit, let yourself really release into the pose. Or some of you might be fine again to fold over your legs, maybe even hold your elbows, maybe even put your hands like behind your legs, or sometimes putting your hands up on your low back, clasping them again feels good so that your arms are kind of out of the picture. Nice. One more full breath, feeling the ribs expand as you inhale. And then bringing your hands back to your hips and bending your knees, press into your feet as you rise up to standing. So like you're pushing the floor away from you. And inhale your arms all the way out and up. And on the exhale, let your hands come down together in front of your hearts, finding your mountain pose here. So your mountain pose is yours, right? You may decide you like your feet a little bit closer. You may decide you like them a little bit further. It can be a matter of a half an inch that really feels different. But basing yourself through your feet, feeling your thighs gently lift upward, but finding this alignment of the tailbone, right? So if you let your belly hang out, that's what happens, right? You get really into that sway back, and that's an exaggeration, right? But your ribs, front ribs come forward. And now if you tuck it up under, that's what happens, right? Another total exaggeration. But if you can let your tailbone reach down like it's reaching towards between your heels, but engage your belly at the same time, kind of zip up from your pubic bone to your belly button, that's your core strength. Your belly, your low back, your hips. And then it just becomes easy, once you get your pelvis aligned, to feel so natural in your mountain pose. So balanced. You know, it becomes easy to stand. Like if you got in line at the grocery store like this, you could stay there for a long time. Not let anything bother you. Let yourself feel very easy to stand there. So just enjoy coming into that quiet strength. Simply being aligned when you stand. And then let your arms unfold on down beside you and shake out a little bit. Move through your feet and your ankles if you need to. Good. I'm going to turn my chair around. So if you're using your chair, you might want to do that. Have your blocks handy so that if you need them, you have them. And we're going to step our right foot back and come into warrior two. So bringing that right foot back, now whether you step your foot 2 feet back or 3 feet back or 4 feet back, that is totally up to you. That right foot is about parallel to the back edge. If your heel wants to go back further so your foot is at that little bit of an angle, that's fine too. And then bend into that left knee. So you find that alignment there. If you need your chair for support, you can leave your hand on it. And let's just float our arms up. Let your hands get higher than your shoulders a little bit. Let your shoulders melt down. Your palms are facing down. And then on your next exhale, lower the hands enough to where when you look out over the top of that left hand, you feel just right in your head. So you're not lifting your chin up, but you're not doing this, tucking your chin down, right? You find that place where it's really easy. Everything feels like you're right there lined up. It's easy and strong and powerful pose. You can feel your hips, feel balanced from your feet all the way up through your legs into your hips. Good. And let's bring our right hand down to our right leg. Turn our left palm up and inhale, reach up towards the sky. You can slide your right hand down more if you need, or you can bend the elbow and kind of use it for support. That's up to you. Feel that breath coming into the left side. And on your next exhale, come on into your side angle, where either your left hand or forearm can be on your thigh or your chair. You're leaning out over that right leg there. Now check out that left knee. Look down. Make sure you're okay. That knee's not coming inward. It's coming out over the center of your foot. And then if you want to add that right arm up, you can bring it on up into line with the right side of your body. Turning the palm to look towards the floor. And if that bothers your shoulder and you'd rather have the arms straight up from your shoulder, by all means do that. We're going to come on back into Warrior Two from there, pressing the feet away from each other as we come. And then we're going to straighten our left leg out. So now both legs are straight. Our left hand's going to come down, maybe to your chair. Maybe you want to go down to the seat of the chair. Maybe you want to be on your leg or your block, right? You're lengthening your torso out. This time now, the legs are both straight. Right shoulder draws up towards the ceiling. And you can decide if you want to add the right arm straight up from your shoulder. You don't have to. You can keep the hand down on your hip, or you can stretch the arm straight on up. We're going to bend the left knee and come on back into Warrior Two from here, pressing those feet away from each other. And then we'll let our hands come down, and we're going to turn our feet to where we're coming for a wide-legged forward bend. So our feet are fairly parallel, wider than your shoulders, hopefully. How much wider is up to you. And then bend your knees, and if you need your blocks, of course, grab your blocks so that they can be right there underneath your hands if you need that instead of the floor. And once you get there, bend both your knees a little bit. Let yourself feel the sense of your inner thighs melting their way behind you, which kind of widens your sit bones out a little bit. Good. And then walk yourself a little to the right. Now you might just want to use your blocks and walk a little bit to the right, or you might want to walk your hands all the way over to your foot. If you're down that low and that feels fun, just stay there for a breath. Feel that release in the inside of the left thigh a little deeper. And then we'll walk back through center, and we're going to go the other side. So again, you can walk hands on the floor. You can shift your blocks. Now, keep your legs fairly equal. So if they're both knees are bent, keep them both bent. If they're both straight, let them both be straight. Feel that inner right thigh. And then we'll come on back into center again. Go ahead and let yourself set up here. I like to sometimes stack blocks up, get onto my forearms on stacked blocks so that I can keep my back long and still be able to release in the pose. But I know some of you like to do various other things, like bring your hands down to the floor, letting your head hang and letting yourself release down lower, right? That's not for everybody's back. So you be where you can. Elbows above the knees is another good support too, so that you're keeping your elbows resting above your knees to support your back. And again, come to that breath. Now see if you can really feel those ribs expanding as you inhale. Actually, for a second, if you were a fish and you had gills, imagine that you're breathing into the side ribs like that, right? So that you're directing your breath to try to expand sideways. It's a very different feeling than breathing into the ribs all around. But it's kind of fun and it's interesting. And then once you've had enough of that, let yourself come back to feeling the ribs expand in all directions. Like you have a rubber band around your rib cage and it expands all the way around to be a bigger circle, right? And then it just comes back in when you exhale. And then we're going to slowly bring ourselves on up to standing. So you know, if you need to adjust your feet in any way before you use your hands to help you rise back up, do. And if you're dizzy, by all means, stay how you need to. Hold on to something if you need to. Let your feet come on together. Walk around a little bit. And we're going to come to the other side with all that. So if you need to move through your feet, do. Sometimes just picking a foot up and kind of circling around a foot feels good. And we'll step our left foot back this time into Warrior Two. So again, that left foot is about parallel to the back edge of your mat, but you can send your heel back farther if your ankle and your knee and your hip are okay with that. And then bend that right knee. So your heels are about in a line. Your knee is lined up with the center of your foot. Your arms are going to float up real easily, a little higher than your shoulders. Go ahead and turn your head to look to the right so you're seeing your arm Let your shoulders melt down. And then slowly start to lower the hands to that place where there you are. You know when it's just right. Once you get there, you can reach out through the fingertips. Just for fun, imagine you're trying to make your mat longer with your feet. Press your feet away from each other. Feel your hips. Feel that core strength. We're going to lower our left arm down and turn our right palm up. And inhale, reach up towards the ceiling. Let yourself feel that right breath coming in to expand the right ribs. And on your next exhale, come into your side angle. So again, you can put your hand on your chair, lean your torso out over. You're still bent in that front knee. You can add that left arm up, and you can use your hand on your thigh. If you want to go lower, you can go down to forearm. Enjoy feeling that length all the way through both sides of the body, really. You're not rounding and collapsing in the underside. You're long. Good. We're going to come on back to Warrior Two, pressing those feet away from each other. And now straightening that right leg out. Triangle, essentially the same pose as you come out over that leg, right? Except that now both your legs are straight. So your left hand can stay on your hip. You don't have to add the arm. Shoulder can roll up towards the ceiling and your hands stay down. Or you can lift your left arm straight up from your shoulder. Thighs are engaging up towards the hips. 3 points of the triangle, the top hand or shoulder and your 2 feet. We're going to bend the right knee and come on back into Warrior Two. And bringing the hands down now, we're going to turn our feet more parallel. And we're going to come on into that wide-legged forward bend. So again, take your time as you come into your pose here. Once you start to get your hands down, or however you want to be supported, go ahead and bend a knee at a time. So you shift a little bit, come into one leg being long, the other knee being bent, unless that hurts your knees. If it hurts your knees, don't do it. Good. So one more breath here while you're moving around, and then adjust your feet if you want to how wide you are in your stance, so that you'll feel good about setting up to stay in the pose, again, to watch your breaths. So if you need to keep that long back, whether you bend your knees and put your elbows above your knees, or you use your blocks under your hands, or your forearms, stack your blocks if you want. And now as you start to watch your breath, be aware of your face. Let your face go. And let yourself release all around your eyes, all around your mouth. And see if you can receive your breaths in and out fairly evenly. Good. One more breath. And now take your time when you start to rise back up. And you may again want to adjust your stance before you come up to standing. That is totally up to you. Letting yourself rise on up when you're ready and bringing your feet on together. Move through your feet and your ankles a little bit. Good. And now, just one more thing. So let yourself, if you're using your chair, turn the seat back around. But if you're using your blocks, let your blocks be the highest height. And we're going to put our hands down, either onto the seat or onto the 2 blocks, the seat of the chair or the 2 blocks. And then we're going to step our right foot back and come into our pyramid pose, which is where both legs are straight, right? And let yourself, that back foot is turned out maybe 20 or 30 degrees. Both legs are straight and the back heel is fully on the floor. So just coming into a pretty comfortable pyramid. Should be pretty stretched out for it. Obviously you're going to feel in the backs of your legs. Interestingly enough, some people feel it more in the front leg and some people feel it more in the back leg. So be aware of engaging your belly a little bit. Lengthen through your spine. Find that flat back. And then put your weight onto your right hand. Bring your left hand to your left hip. And just roll your shoulder up. You can put your palm down on your sacrum there, coming into Revolve Triangle. Some of you might want to lift your left arm up. More power to you. If it feels good in your shoulder to lift your arm up, it's a lot more intense than some ways to lift your arm though. So one more breath here. Lengthen out through the top of your head. Feel that lift upward of your thighs. It's like you're creating space in your knees. And then bring your hand on back down. We're going to step forward and we're going to switch legs. So all we're going to do is do that on the other side. So again, now another interesting enough with this pose, it feels often very different from side to side, right? And also sometimes you want to make your pose, your stance longer or shorter. And go ahead and do that, right? So don't try to necessarily stay the same distance apart with your feet as you were on the other side. Get comfortable. Feel that flat back. Feel your thighs lifting up. And enjoy feeling the backs of your legs. Yeah, and your knees. Really, think about how you're working all the muscles around your knees right now as you lift your thighs up towards your hips. Shift your weight to your left hand. Bring your right hand up to your right hip and roll that shoulder up if you can with your palm down on your sacrum. Try to stay level right there so that you feel like that twist is right in the middle of your back. It is intense in the outside of that right leg, or maybe not intense, but you're going to feel it, right? So your IT band there. Let yourself lengthen out through the top of your head. Beautiful. If you like to stretch your right arm up, go for it, man. More power to you. Again, it's really deep in the shoulders to do that. And then we'll come on back down with the right hand. Go ahead and step again to get your feet under you. Bend both your knees really deeply. Let your belly come towards your thighs. And let yourself, feel your hips shift back a little bit. You can fold if you want over your legs. That's up to you. Good. One more breath. And then bring your hands to your hips. We're going to rise straight on up to standing and inhale our arms all the way out and up. And on our exhale, as our hands come down, think about your top of your head getting higher towards the ceiling. And it's almost like, even though you're grounded in your feet, after doing all that we've done so far, there is so much energy flowing through your body. It's almost like you could levitate up off the floor. It's like if somebody had a slip of paper to slip under your feet, they could almost do it. You feel that light, right? And then we'll go ahead and release our arms on down. Shake out a little bit, move around. We're going to leave our mats where they are because rather than move around with that's too much trouble. But let's grab a block and let's walk to a wall where we can put a hand on a wall, okay? So there can be somebody here and here if you want to be. And then we're going to let's turn our right shoulder towards the wall. And we'll take our block and put it between our right foot and the wall. Now, the height you do it is going to kind of be up to you. I'm going to put mine lowest, but you might decide you want to put it at the next level, okay? And then just cross your left thigh over your right and put your left foot on that block, right? So the toes, right? Or you might even be kind of to the ball of your foot. It kind of depends on your foot. And stand up nice and tall here, and you can use your hand on the wall, right? For a second, lift your left arm up overhead, and then let that left hand come towards the wall and come into a little side stretch. Now, you can keep your right hand up there on the wall, or you can let your right arm dangle, hang down if you want. Feel that stretch through the side body. Good. And now come on back up, and let that left arm come on down beside you. And now, come forward a little bit. Bend your right knee. It's like you're sitting back into that chair pose again, right? So you can sit just a little bit and squeeze your thighs towards each other. Have your torso just a little forward. Or some of you might want to go deeper, like we did when we were at that chair pose. If you want to release the wall, because you have your foot on the block, you can bring your hands to your heart. You can even bring your right arm over your left and do an eagle arm wrap if you choose to. That is up to you. That is totally optional. You can also keep your hands kind of on your thighs to support you a little bit. Good. You don't have to bend that knee very deeply if it's too much. We're going to come on back up and unwrap yourself. Move through that foot you were standing on and turn on back around to the other side. So again, at first, the right foot comes over onto the block. And now stand up nice and tall if you can. Let your right arm rise on up out and up overhead. And we're going to come over towards the wall, bringing the right hand to the wall. Now again, you can keep your left hand kind of at the wall by your shoulder, or you can let the left arm hang. Breathing into that side. Good. One more breath. Feel the ribs expand on that right side as you inhale. And then we'll come on back up. And again, remember as the arms come down, bend that left knee a little bit. Sit back a little bit if you can. Don't force it. If you can't do that, don't do it. And again, you can keep your hand on the wall. You can bring your hands to your heart. If you like to bring your left arm over your right, you can come into that eagle wrap. So just let yourself really come into your hips here, however you can. If your thighs are really connected there, squeeze your thighs towards each other a little bit. And even kind of feel your pelvic floor lift up. There can be a lot going on. We're going to rise back up. Good. Uncross your leg. Step back from the wall. And if you can, now don't do it if it hurts your wrist. Go to fists if you need to. But if you can come into the shape of a capital letter L, a down dog at the wall, you can bend your knees as much as you want. Let yourself feel your elbows hugging in a little bit so that you feel your shoulders okay. And find that long, flat back. Beautiful. Does that hurt your sit bones at all?
This feels great.
Good. Okay. Good. Yeah. Nice. So think about your back being flat and your tailbone reaching back and up a little bit. So if you tend to round up in your upper back, imagine your heart melting down a little bit. Good. Nice. And we're going to walk on back up towards the wall. And we're actually going to walk on back to our mats and come down onto our bellies on the floor. So take your blocks with you because, well, it's just easier that way. Now let's come on down and come onto our belly. Make a little blanket, a little pillow with your hands. Never made a blanket with my hands before. And then, it wouldn't do much good, let your knees bend and let your feet circle around. And you can do the little wiper blades if that feels good for your back. Remember that everybody's different. You know, if you like to do the old windshield wiper blades where your legs open and then kind of cross at your ankles and go back and forth that way, or of course, when your legs go to the same side. I like both myself. Good. And then come on back to your legs being nice and long here now. And let's come on to our forearms and see if you can clasp your hands, send your pinky fingers out, get your elbows under your shoulders, and bend your knees and lift your hips up. So a half forearm plank here. So rather than shifting down with your belly, you are definitely using the core strength here, the belly, the low back, and the hips. Now, you can stay right here, and man, that's a lot of work. I mean, if you just kind of stay for a few breaths. If you want a little more, you can put your feet on the floor and lift your knees up and stay for a few breaths there. And if you're like, I can't stay there for a few breaths, then don't. You know, come down and take a little break and then go back up. It is, however, a very, very good core exercise. Fairly safe unless your shoulders bother you, obviously. Good. And then we're going to release and come on down. And then make your pillow with your hands. Put your forehead on your hands. And lift your right leg up. Point your foot and imagine somebody's pulling that foot down farther, like stretching your leg out longer. It's straight, it's reaching. It's almost like your hip pointer bone wants to rise off the floor too. And then put it down and go to your left. So point the foot and imagine somebody stretching your leg long, which would feel great. And then release and come back down. Now, see if you can do both. Lift them both up. And then let them both come back down. Try to now relax your hips a little bit. And then inhale your head up off your hands. And while your head is off your hands, let them come on down and reach down beside you, turning your palms down towards the floor. So you're in the upper half of your locust pose. Now, try again to let go through your buttocks. If you find yourself gripping, it's hard not to. See if you can let go of that, but use your belly. And then come on back down. Everything's down. Head's on the floor, hands on the floor, legs on the floor. And then on your next inhale, we're going to rise up into that full locust pose. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be high off the floor to be in a locust pose. Just using your back enough to bring your nose off the floor can be enough. So you're strengthening your back body here. Good. One more breath. Imagine you're sliding down on your belly on downhill somewhere so that it feels good. It's like everything's just whooshing back behind you. And then we're going to come on back down and stretch your right arm straight out from your shoulder on the floor and bring your left hand in like you're going to do a push-up. All right, so from here, all we're going to do is press into that left hand and roll a little bit onto our right side. Now, you don't have to go far. It opens up the front of your chest, right? Your pectoral muscles right there. So if it feels uncomfortable, don't go far, or change the angle of your arm a little bit. That can really make a difference too. And then come on back down to your belly. Bring your right hand in like you're going to do a push-up. Stretch your left arm out from your shoulder. And then push into that right hand and kind of roll onto your left side. Again, this is totally, totally up to you and your shoulders. Don't do it if it hurts or feels uncomfortable. Good. And then we're going to come on back into center. Bring your hands down by your chest like you're going to do a push-up. And then lift your head up off the floor. Hug your elbows in towards each other. And imagine and really try to pull yourself to the front of your mat. Feel that sense of you're pulling and you're getting yourself longer in your low back. And then come on down. That's a cobra pose right there. If you like to do pushing into your hands and coming up into cobra this way, that's fine. If not, you're doing plenty of work. It's actually harder to be lower. But if your body feels good to open up, go right ahead and come up higher into straighter arms too. And then from here, we're going to find our child's pose. So letting yourself shift your hips back. Think of your big toes coming together, your heels maybe being apart, and you can shift onto your arms and stay with your bottom up in the air. If that feels better to you, then your knees don't like you to shift back all the way. Don't even think of it. Be where you can. Find the pose where you can really relax, right? So it's not a working child's pose. It's a released child's pose. So your arms might want to come back alongside your legs, or you might want to keep your arms overhead and soft. Sometimes turning your head to one side feels better. So if you need to do that, you can turn your head one way. And then turn it the other way after you've done that couple of breaths so you even yourself out. Good. And one more breath. And then we're going to come on up. Bring your hands by your knees. Let yourself press your way on up. Bring your legs on around in front of you and just stretch them out for a second. We're not going to stay here long. Just let your legs be long. Do little wiper blades with your feet. And then we're going to come on down onto our backs from here. So, how you go down, it's up to you. If you like to think of rolling down, which starts with, curling your tailbone up and coming through, like hollowing out your belly, right? If that feels good to you, go for it. If you like that sense of rolling down. If not, if it bothers your back at all, don't do it. Once you come on down, bring your right knee in towards your chest and let your left leg extend down long on the floor. And just flex through both your feet. Feel your right leg now pressing gently into your hands. Enjoy that openness in the front of your left hip. So your left knee and toes are facing up towards the ceiling. Yes, good. And then we're going to switch to bring our left knee in and extend our right leg down long on the floor. Again, flexing through both feet. And feel that left leg gently coming into your hands. And there are the natural curves of your back. So your low back is not collapsed into the mat. If you push your leg into your hands, you have that bit of a natural curve. Everybody's low back natural curve is different, how deep it is, right? And then bring both knees on in towards the chest. Send your feet up in the air for a happy baby. Now you can just let your knees slide a little wider and kind of down towards the floor and stay right there. Or you can reach your hands up around the back of the legs and put them on the back of your thighs or up to get your feet or your ankles. And then if it feels good, to roll a little bit from side to side. Go for it. And if that does not feel good, don't do it. And then come on back to center and see if you can, from here, let your right leg come straighter and out to the side. Right? So your left knee is staying bent. Your right leg is out. It's kind of like a half of a wide angle. You're just straightening one leg out. Go ahead and bring that one back in and do the left one. See if you can let it go long and it can come down towards the ground a little bit more if that feels good to your inner thigh. Good, and then come back again to the right leg, and again, extend it out, and again, if it feels good, to let the leg come lower towards the floor so you find a little bit more stretch to you. And then we'll switch one more time back to the other leg. And then we'll come back into center. Bring your knees on back into your chest, and actually bring your feet to the floor, and stretch your arms overhead for a second. And for a second, clasp your hands together and turn your palms away from the top of your head and press up into the heels of your hands. Feel how your low back now really wants to lift up away from the floor. Let it do it. It's like stretching first thing in the morning, but it's with the feet on the floor. And now bring your hands up towards the ceiling like you're handing something to somebody on the ceiling. Turn your palms to face each other. Let your shoulders melt down towards the ground. And then we're going to start to lower our arms down alongside us, alongside our bodies. Turn your palms down towards the mat for a second and adjust your feet for a little bridge pose here. So your feet might want to be heels a little closer to your buttocks, or they might want to be a little farther away. Go ahead and bend your elbows to 90 degrees. Let your palms face each other like your robot. Do your robot arms. And press into the backs of your arms. Feel how your chest automatically lifts up. See if you can roll your shoulders under a little more, and then keep pressing into your arms and float your hips up. Feel equal through your feet. In fact, feel your thighs engaging by pressing down a little bit into your feet. You shouldn't feel this pose in your back at all. One more breath. And then lower down for just a second. Stay here for a breath. Let yourself release. Feel your legs relax for a second. And then we're going to do it again. We're going to press into the backs of the arms and let ourselves float up. How high you go is up to you. Press into your feet. Now, if possible, lift your heels up. See what happens when you lift your heels up. If you want to go higher, go. And if you want to stretch your arms down long and onto the floor with your palms facing down, you can do that. And if you're like, I just want to bring my heels down, go right ahead and do that too. Play where you want, right? Come down whenever you need to. If you feel like you'd rather grab a block and do a little bit of supported bridge right now, by all means do it. If you feel better to move up and down out of bridge pose instead of going up and staying ever in here, you know, do it. And if your body is telling you I have done entirely enough of bridge pose for right now, then by all means come down. And you all know in here that you do want to bring yourself into knees towards your chest. When you come out of a bridge pose, you want to release your back. You know, even though it's not like you're putting pressure in your back, you still want to, the tendency is to want to let your knees come in towards your chest. So, take your time. If you are still in support, you're more than welcome to stay there for a bit. If you're coming down, just let yourself release. And do what your body needs right now. Usually just knees coming side to side feels good. Or you may decide that your body would really like to do another form of a twist. Right? So if that's the case, let yourself do it. You want to bring your knees just side to side, or you want to bring one knee in across, do. And I'm going to start to move around and look for the possibility of anyone wanting a bolster for underneath their knees. So remember, the important part for Shavasana is to be comfortable. Good. Good, Robert. And if you liked it, that's good. Good. Be mindful, you know, wait for me, don't get up, I will be around to get everybody what they need. So if you need a blanket, if you need a bolster, good idea, good for you. You want a bolster? A little bolster? So just get comfortable. Feel the ground underneath you. Take your time. Feel that nice contrast of the firmness of the floor and the softness of the body, especially as you relax deeper and deeper, like you're melting down into the floor. It's really almost like the whole body turns to liquid and then just melts down. And as you watch your breath, just see if you can accept your breaths in and out. And if and when your mind wanders off from the breath, just when you realize you're thinking, come back to the breath. And there are a lot of ways that can be helpful to do that. You might want to count your breaths. And when you realize you're off of that, come back to the last number you remember, or start counting over again. Or a word, or a mantra. It can be something really simple, like thinking the word in when you inhale and out when you exhale. Your choice of a word or mantra that helps you come back to the breath. yourself have the gift of these few minutes to give your body and your mind time to benefit from all you just did. And just let yourself completely and fully relax. your fingers and your toes lead you when you're ready to move if you can, so that you start with your extremities and then gradually move on up into your arms, your legs doing what they need to do. Stretch if you need to stretch, or bring your knees up and in if you feel like you need to release your back. And you know you're welcome too to come onto your side into a soft fetal position if you're comfortable to do that. Anytime. You don't need to. You can stay on your back if that's better for you. Really just pay attention to how you feel. If you are on your side, you might want to use your arm as a pillow so you can rest comfortably for a little bit. And it's just a time that maybe you can adjust a little bit before you come up to sitting. So just be easy when you do feel like you're ready to rise up, or if you're already there, let your eyes close again and let yourself get comfortable in the way you're sitting once you do get up right there. Getting comfortable for your hips. Grab a blanket if you need to sit on. You don't have to sit cross-legged. You can stretch your legs out, whatever feels good. And then just enjoy finding that lightness of your head again if you can. Feel that place where your head feels like it's really just floating up there on top of your spine. Your spine is supporting you very easily. Your muscles can still stay relaxed. So your shoulders are nice and released, wide and open. Watch your breath again. And on your next exhale, let your hands come gently together there in front of your chest. And wishing each one of you a very joyful day. Namaste.
Namaste.